Everybody. That's a much bigger crowd. So I am Marie Donegan, and along with Will Wittig, I was co-chair of the Affirming Our Welcome Capital Campaign that started in 2018. Well, it started for me maybe in 2017, or maybe in 1992, or maybe before I could even walk. So I want to talk about air conditioning. I've been a member of St. John's all my life, and the sanctuary's been hot all that time. It was so hot back in the day that Reverend Edson, our pastor back then, went rogue and told the men to shed their ties and jackets. It was shocking. Well, I don't think it made the women shed their stockings, so let's not get crazy. But it was hot enough to make 10 o'clock service people become 8 o'clock people just for the summer. So air conditioning wasn't common in 1957 when the sanctuary was built, but once it became a thing, we dreamed of it. What if? But we thought and were told without evidence or data that installing air conditioning in the sanctuary was impossible. And even if it was possible, it would cost too much, like $3 million or $6 million or $10 million or some huge sum of money that we couldn't possibly raise. And that story was our story for more than 60 years. But for me, the turning point, or really the breaking point, was the Wicked musical, the Broadway musical that was performed right here to a packed house in 2017 in 100-degree temperatures. It was a magical night, but man, it was hot. People offered to pass the hat, people we didn't even know, offered to pass the hat to buy us some cool air. So sometime after that, the vestry decided we needed to discover the real truth and find a solution once and for all. So we explored several alternatives, big fans and things, to drop the temperature and humidity just a bit, in case air conditioning indeed was impossible. But thank God, we were blessed to find the right people in the right place at the right time to help us figure it out. And we were blessed to learn from congregations like Christ Church Cranbrook and Christ Church Detroit, who convinced us that if they could do it, we could too. So our capital campaign and our parish was blessed in so many ways. I can't even remember all the different phases we went through. We were blessed by the planning teams, the people who wrote the words in our case statement, the brochures and printed materials, the folks who kept track of the pledges, who planned that wonderful kickoff celebration we had in Jatho Hall 4 years ago, and all the other celebratory moments and events we had. We were blessed by the construction team who met on Zoom for nearly a year, and all the other people who played a part in this incredible process. I was personally blessed to have Will and Tim as partners for their expertise and patience, neither of which are my forte. So we are also blessed by the people in this congregation who trusted us and the capital campaign process itself, who contributed time, talent, and particularly treasure, who trusted their faith in God and our collective calling to affirm our welcome and build in faith. And that brings me to another blessing. The capital campaign made us take a good look at our building to see what it will mean to continue to be good stewards of our parish home, built by our ancestors in this place more than 100 years ago. 30 years ago, Mary Kimber and I launched a capital campaign to build what we now call the old elevator, that combined with the new elevator will finally bring our building into alignment with who we say we are, an inclusive community who welcomes everyone. But 30 years is a long time. We were able to do a lot to bring our building into alignment, but not everything. There were many difficult choices along the way, many setbacks to overcome, and prayers to be said, especially during COVID when things got really rough. But we made it. Thank God and thank you. Well, the capital campaign wasn't just about air conditioning and an elevator, but Will will tell you a little bit more about that.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Will Wittig, and I would like to share two thoughts with you this morning. The first is a deep expression of gratitude, and then I would like to put this occasion in historical context. I want to start by thanking the people who actually made our vision a reality, starting with Tom Roberts, our architect, and his right hand, at the time the design work was done, Nicole McNamara, who, by the way, was a student of mine 17 years ago. Tom did such a beautiful job of translating our aspirations to a clear vision, with great attention to detail and always with a very thoughtful and generous spirit. I think it's fair to say we are all really proud of the results. From Ronish Construction Group, I want to thank Tim Honaway and our site superintendent, Matt Dizelrath, along with Floyd Schmidt from Gemini Electric. And they, of course, represent dozens and dozens of very skilled contractors and other team members who shepherded us through a very challenging project and ultimately built our vision and gave us many new and refurbished spaces that exceeded our expectations. I also want to personally thank Don Desio, the leader of our heating and cooling team, who's with us this morning. With that part of the project, we had to thread a needle to create the most efficient and cost-effective system we could, merging a new conventional boiler with cutting-edge heating pump technology, all connected to a lot of vintage equipment, most of which is older than me. Don's dedication and patience has been a blessing, including his generous gift of time and expertise, which he offered without the meter running, so to speak, at all hours, including taking my calls at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning on occasion. Thank you, Don. I would also like to thank Marie for her leadership and her patience with me as an imperfect co-chair, for your letter editing, Marie, which was great, and for pushing us to dream big and to not be afraid to stretch. I also want to thank Tim Morgan, who was indispensable to the project. Tim's efforts behind the scenes were remarkable, whether it was as a wise counselor or as a sump pump repairman, and everything in between. Tim's combination of skill and grace are truly awesome. And Beth, your leadership through this entire process was stellar. I am guessing that most rectors might tell their friends privately that managing a parish's hopes and fears and all the practical problems of a capital campaign might be one of the most stressful tasks a rector can take on. But you never shared that burden with us. Your faith and strength and your even temper through so many challenges inspired us all. And I have to say, it may not have felt like it to you on most days, but in a way, you were preaching to us through all of that. And of course, I want to thank all of you. And of course, I want to thank all of you. Your generosity that funded the project was stunning. And by the way, the total amount donated essentially represented doubling your financial commitment to the parish for 3 years in a row, which was remarkable. What I will remember even more than that is the presence of the Holy Spirit that I know that we all shared when this community bonded together to envision and plan for this project. I'm sure that recollection resonates for many of you who were here 4 or 5 years ago, when we all witnessed a remarkable outpouring of joy, talent, hard work, unity of purpose, and most of all, love for this community. I also want to frame this occasion historically with this figure: 51,508,800 minutes. 51,508,800 minutes. What does that mean? It's 98 years. That'll make a little bit more sense in a few minutes when the choir sings an anthem from the musical Rent, which some of you may already know. 98 years of faith and love shared in this place. 98 years ago, on the first Sunday of Advent, our parish ancestors marked this place as holy ground. They laid a cornerstone then as the foundation of this building was first emerging from the ground. And in doing so, they made a bold new proclamation on this corner, which had been a rich man's horse farm. A proclamation that has been reaffirmed by many generations and thousands of members of St. John's. And today we reaffirm that story that defines who we are and also guided the goal of this project. And that simple story, renewed by the commitment represented by this campaign, goes something like this. God is here in this place. God is love. Love is here. And in this place, all are welcome, everyone belongs. Our doors and our arms are open wide. And as you enter those new wide open doors and maybe ride our new elevator, whoever you are and wherever you come from, you will be welcomed, affirmed, embraced, and celebrated. And more importantly, we will be better because you are here, because you walked through those doors. That's our story. So how do you measure 5 or 98 years in the life of a parish? Probably not in minutes, probably with a measure that is much less precise. Maybe we should imagine measuring the next 98 years in welcome, inclusion, and love.
Please join me in thanking Will Wittig, Marie Donegan, and Tim Morgan. Everyone participated in this, but those three will never know the depth of our gratitude and the measure of our love for them and their commitment for this place. In the sermon of his life, Jesus said, "For everyone who knocks, the door will be open." For everyone who knocks, the door will be open. How many of you have had or think you might have at some point a hip or a knee replacement? Raise your hand. For everyone who has or thinks at some point you might have a wheelchair or a walker or a stroller, or just need a little extra help getting into the building. I was looking this up this morning. The Americans with Disabilities Act passed in 1990. When the people who planned and dreamed of this place 100 years ago, 98 years ago, accessibility was not in their stream of in their consciousness the way it is in ours now. And so we remember with gratitude all the foundations that they laid, but in every generation, it is the people's work to translate the needs that we have now. And someday, some of you sitting out here will be chairing capital campaigns and raising money to change something in our building that we haven't even yet dreamed or thought about. Remember this, when Jesus healed the sick, it wasn't just a nice thing that a nice guy did for someone who was suffering. He did those things to restore the people to their communities. Do you know what I'm talking about? They weren't allowed to participate. And he did those things. He cleaned the leper, and he raised up the lame and said, pick up your mat and walk, so that they could be restored to their community. So what you have done, St. John's, in this work, making this building more welcoming and accessible, is you have offered a prayer. This is a spiritual movement, not a financial or an administrative one. Well done. But also remember this, it is never only for us that we have done this work as a prayer, an offering, and in thanksgiving to God. Thousands of people use this building for lots of different reasons. And they too need access so that when the door is knocked upon, the door will be opened and they will be welcome. I want to end with this. In 2019, in the summer, on a Saturday morning when the Open Hands Food Pantry was operating in a quite different way, where people would park their cars and walk downstairs through the chapel door and go downstairs into Jatho Hall and wait until their groceries were put together and then their names were called and then they were sent on their way. And there was a woman who was sitting on a bench in the chapel. And she said, I'm sorry that I can't go down the stairs because I can't walk, but I'll just sit here, as she did on many Saturday mornings. And Beth Bingham, who was our associate at the time, was talking with her and said, you know, I just want to tell you that we are beginning a capital campaign. We're going to start raising money because we have dreamed of building an elevator so that you and anyone who needs to come in here won't have to sit and wait or not participate in the whole program, but we'll be able to get in all in the same door and go all where we're off to. And we're so excited about that. And it's going to take some time, but we're working on that. And she said to Beth, you know, I don't always have extra cash on me, but today I do, and I want to make a contribution to that dream. And Beth said, oh, no, we're starting a full campaign, and we have a fundraising plan, and we'll take care of it. And she said, no, I want to be a part of that. And she handed Beth a $20 bill and put it in this envelope. It was our first contribution to this capital campaign. And I have kept this envelope pinned on my bulletin board, and I look at it every day. And is Mary Fairman here? Mary, I'm gonna write a little letter and tell that story. We're gonna ask you to put it in the archives so that 98 or 100 years from today, somebody reads this and knows that what we did was not just for you or for me, but for all of us. Because Jesus said, for everyone who knocks, the door will be opened. Amen.